And welcome to Social Justice Forums. I am your host, Daren Jaime. We thank you for joining us. Now, if you ask the question, what is this show all about? We bring you a forum that's discussing and providing a deeper understanding of the issues and inequities that so many people face, things such as systemic inequalities to pressing social problems. Our guests provide multiple perspectives, insights, give us their stories, and help us better understand as well as address some of these challenges. We invite you to stay connected to us as the Social Justice Forum starts now. And welcome back. Since its inception in 1983, McDonald's Gospelfest remains the nation's foremost gospel celebration, bringing inspiration, encouragement, and hope to millions of Americans. Now, the festival creates a joyous atmosphere for talented singers and choirs and musicians to unite, as well as celebrate the beauty of gospel music. And joining me now, the Emmy award-winning producer and director of McDonald's Gospelfest, A. Curtis Farrow, and my brother, good to have you.
How are you? So good to be here.
Man, glad to have you here sharing.
Good to be here in the Bronx. The Bronx.
He's in the Bronx, ladies and gentlemen. And McDonald's Gospelfest is coming to the Bronx.
It's McDonald's Gospelfest is coming to the Bronx.
Yes.
For years and years, people have been begging me, please, Mr. Farrow. Well, this is the year.
And
April the 20th, right at the Lehman Center for the Performing Arts, right here on the Lehman College campus. We're going to be here, and we are excited.
We're going to talk about that in a few minutes, but
Yeah.
let me first talk about this because we talk about McDonald's Gospelfest.
Yes.
Before we talk about Gospelfest, we have to
Right.
talk about McDonald's, right? Because this is a
Correct.
partnership.
Correct.
And you know, this is a social justice show. We want to
Right.
talk a little bit about this here.
Yeah.
You know, McDonald's
Yes.
and African-American owner-operators are really the engine to what made this work.
Yes. It was a group of black McDonald owner operators who got together and, they were looking at the corporation and just talking about social justice. The corporation was sponsoring the Super Bowl. They were sponsoring, the Super Bowl and the Olympics. And a group of black owners said, hey, wait a minute. That's great, but we want to do something for our community. We want to do something for the communities. We want to serve the communities who serve us.
Right.
And so, they had to fight. They had to fight for that. And so then, everyone came around and said, okay, great. And then they put the first one up, and it was so successful in the community that from a branding standpoint, even McDonald's Corporation was like, wow, this is a win. So just to go to show you, social justice does work.
Right.
You know what I mean? It does
Right.
work. We have to fight sometimes, but it does work. And so from that point forward, the McDonald's Corporation, the McDonald owner-operators, the New York Tri-State McDonald owner-operators, all folks are 100% behind the program. And that's why we're still here 43 years later.
But when you look at the history, though, honestly, a lot of people don't know the story, right?
Yeah.
Because there was a time, you talk about doing it, but there was a time when people didn't want you to do it, and you
That's
almost shut down. Talk to us about that.
That's correct. There's a time where some people don't understand. You always have new people coming in, and new people are like, why do we do this? Why do we do this program? And so then we had like 300 pastors. And I'll never forget Lee Dunham, who was a black McDonald owner-operator. We had 300 pastors, and they were going to go to the corporation and say, oh, you're going to do this. This program is ours. You serve us every day, but we, buy
Serve
your
you,
food
right.
every day. And so then Lee went into the corporation, and they was like, they got 300 pastors coming down to the offices. And they were like, oh, no, we don't want to do that. And so then it turned. And then people all understand. But you know what it is really? Even more so than the pastors, it really is about every time there's a new set of new people, it's about bringing them to the community so they can see it in action.
Right.
And when they see it in action, when they see families come together, when they see all the groups of people coming together on one accord, there's no shootings, there's no fighting, it's just joy. It's like you said, it's our time to come together and to just praise God and be joyful. And even those folks who just like gospel as a art form, it's just a joyful time. And now they're on board.
Yeah.
So, it's fight. I had to fight to keep it, but it's right on now.
Before we talk about the concert, I want to get to talking about McDonald's owner-operators, right?
Yes,
because
they're
there's
great.
also something else that's a very important component. We're seeing young African Americans.
Yes.
And African Americans really own McDonald's.
They do.
And they're doing well.
They're doing
very
phenomenal.
well.
They're doing
financially.
phenomenal.
Now, in the community, a lot of people throw shade like, "Oh, you work at McDonald's."
Right.
But the reality is, to be an owner and an operator,
you got to work.
You got to work.
You got to work.
And you're making a bag.
That's correct. That's correct. You can't just have a bunch of money and say you want to own McDonald's. It doesn't work that way. You have to go and you have to train. You have to go to Hamburger University. You have to train. You have to go in the stores. Those owner-operators, when you see those owner-operators, they're not just walking around like they have money and they just do money around. It don't work like that. They have to work, I believe it's a full year in somebody else's McDonald's restaurant.
Wow.
Yeah, those McDonald's owner-operators, they have to know how to do every single thing that goes on in that restaurant. And we have a group now of Black McDonald owner-operators, they're young and they're doing a great job and they're working hard. It's hard work.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard work. It's not easy. They ain't just sitting back. People think that they just roll up and collect the dough. It don't work like that.
And I met a young man who's in Auburn, New York.
Yeah.
In his grand opening, right? And he told
Herb.
Right, Herb.
Yes.
And Herb told a story about how it was not an easy road for him.
Yes.
But not only does he have one in Auburn, now he has one in Ithaca,
Yeah.
and he's doing well.
He's doing well. Yes, he's doing well. And his mom, Nellie, they're so good. They're a great family. He's second generation. And that's the other thing that I keep saying to everybody, what I love is watching how to really leave a legacy. You know, we've gotten in the business that we don't leave a legacy right now. It's all about us and we stay there forever.
Right.
And then something happens to us, we die off, and then guess what? It goes away. But I have to say, watching the McDonald owner-operators build a legacy, bringing in their kids so that their kids will bring in their kids, and it becomes a legacy, in the community, a legacy of doing work, a legacy of building their own personal brands. So his parents are McDonald owner-operators now. He's a McDonald owner-operator. He's got 2 daughters. I'm sure one of them will be a McDonald's owner-operator. And I see that more and more and more, even with Lee Dunham. His Brian Hairston, his son, is now the president of the New York Tri-State owner-operator, the entire body, not just the Black owner-operators, the entire body.
Right.
You know what? And so I see that through all of the McDonald's system. That's something that we could learn from.
Right.
They do a great job of making sure that you are not just servicing the community, but you're building a legacy for your family.
Which is something we don't always see in our community.
That's correct.
And McDonald's is really a great pathway to do it. Now let's talk about this concert now.
Yes,
It's coming up.
Lehman Center for the Performing Arts,
Right.
April the 20th. It is going to be so phenomenal. Our theme is revival. And Bronx, you gotta come. We're bringing the First Lady of Gospel Music, Shirley Caesar. Shirley Caesar, tell everybody. I told somebody the other day, I said, don't just bring your mom because your mom wants to come.
Right.
Don't just bring your aunt wants to come. Make sure you bring the kids. This lady, she's the First Lady of Gospel Music. Trust me, if that child can be touched, she's gonna touch that child.
Right.
So make sure you bring everybody. And then we have Dottie Peoples. And oh my God, you never see Shirley Caesar and Dottie Peoples on the same show. You just don't.
Right.
That is going to be like, I said to everybody, I said, that's gospel dynamite. Shirley Caesar and Dottie Peoples, that is gospel music dynamite. You can make sure we're going to have a good time that night. And then brought up Byron Cage. Oh my God. Byron Cage, the blessing of the Lord is here.
Right.
It's going to be a phenomenal night and a couple surprises. But that's April the 20th, Saturday, April the 20th, Lehman Center for the Performing Arts right here on the campus of Lehman College. Go to lehmancenter.org, or for tickets, lehmancenter.org, or go to the Lehman Center for the Performing Arts website and you'll get all the information. And there's beautiful flyers like this all over the Bronx.
Yes.
And there's even a special for groups of more than 20, you get 20% off. So make sure you go to the Lehman Center for the Performing Arts, their website, or go to lehmancenter.org.
Amazing, amazing. So the night starts around 8 p.m.?
8 p.m. the night starts, and we'll start off with, of course, prayer.
Right.
And then we'll start off with our competition. We'll only have 2 categories that night, which will be the soloist category, which is one of the favorites. And then I believe that night is also the rapping category, which, as you know, I got in a lot of trouble when I brought rapping as a category back in 20.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so we're excited about that. It's going to be a phenomenal night. big.
What has been the key to success? Because when we talk about longevity, we don't always see longevity. You talk about it right in our community, but you've been able to take something and do it for 43 years. You've won an Emmy Award, you know, and gone through this. Talk to us about what has been the key there.
The key for me is God. I don't take it for granted. You know what I'm saying? I take nothing for granted. I believe that God placed me here, and I say to my team, we are about activation. That every year we don't sit on our laurels. You know, I have 19 Emmy nominations. I have 3 Emmy Awards, and that's not including all the other stuff. That, to me, that means nothing. That's that year, great, wow.
Right.
But we come to the next year, that means nothing. It's you starting all over again. You got to get out and you got to get in the streets, you got to activate. And you see me, you know me, I'm on the road.
Right.
I'm activating. Folks don't know, I was just telling you, I do so many churches and go visit so many churches to pump up, you know, the community, and it is work. But more than anything, I would say the key is activation. Don't sit on your laurels. Get up. I was getting ready to say, get your butt up.
Yes.
Get your butt up.
You can say it right.
Activate. Activate, activate, activate. That's the word of the day. The word of the day is activate.
Just coming off of Easter Sunday,
Yes.
I know that you've had some time in churches.
Yes.
Talk to us about that grind and what it's been like for you just going out there and
Oh my God.
visiting
So I
churches.
did 9 churches Easter. And oh my God, it is just incredible. I say to everybody, I'm exhausted when I finish.
Right.
Because, you know, with each church, and these pastors allow me to get in the pulpit. So they allow me to get up in the pulpit and to pump, you know, pump the show, but to also, I get to share a little mini 1-minute message, you know, of the power of prayer, or I always tell them that God has smiled on us. That's my favorite.
Right.
And so, you know, it's just so exciting. But I will tell you that I can still see we're still coming. We're not completely out of COVID yet, because all of the churches are not packed with people. There are a lot of people who are still online. Online. But I will say that the activation for me and just being there, the energy that I get back from the people, it knows that I know that we're doing the right thing. I know that we're doing the right thing. But at the end of the day, I'm a little exhausted. And Easter, I mean, this is the time of the year. If you're a part of gospel music, this is what it's all about.
Right.
That, you know, gospel music is the good news. So there's nothing like going to the church, right, to celebrate the good news.
You know, one of the things I always talk about when it comes to social justice is you cannot extract church from
You can't
social
separate
justice,
it.
right?
You cannot
When you think
separate
about most of the major things that we've had happen, whether it was
Correct.
voting rights,
Correct.
came through the church.
Correct.
The March on Washington
Correct.
came through the church.
And look, the
Million Man
March on Washington, the I Have a Dream speech, you know who gets more credit for that I Have a Dream speech than anybody? Mahalia Jackson.
Right.
Mahalia standing there while King is speaking saying, tell him about the dream, Martin.
Right.
Tell him about the dream, Martin.
Right.
Tell him about the dream, Martin.
Right.
Gospel music is the cradle, it's the base of social justice. You know, and even to this day, it still is the base of justice. I know everyone thinks, oh, you can just only galvanize you know, crowds and galvanize folks to come and participate online. Online is phenomenal, but what I have found is it depends on who you're trying to activate. You know what I'm saying? If you're trying to activate the total of the community, you gotta have the church.
Right.
It's the base. You can't get rid of that. So you can activate online, but who's coming?
Right. And I got to ask you this question while I have you here, because you do a great job of intersection, right? When we
Right.
talk about this, you've intersected the secular,
Right.
and then you've also intersected the church community and allowed those two to come together for a greater purpose.
Yes.
Something that needs to happen in communities.
Yes.
How do you make that happen?
Wow. Prayer.
Right, right.
No, but I'm serious. It's
Right.
prayer. It's prayer, but it's also the ability to know that everybody good ain't necessarily just only in the church. I know, I tell people all the time, I said, you know, of all of the people that I've known in the world, I know that Aretha Franklin, she carried her Bible everywhere she went. And when you went to see her in concert, even if she sang her secular songs, somewhere in the middle of that performance, she was taking you to church.
Right.
So she would always say, I'm going to touch somebody. You know, God is allowing me to use this as a way to get deeper. And she would always say deeper, that you can get deeper to somebody by opening their ears and their eyes and their heart first than you can by just going and preaching and stomping on them. And the same thing with Whitney. I tell people all the time, I said, the one thing about Whitney Houston knew that Bible.
Right.
And Whitney Houston, the same thing, you go to a Whitney Houston concert, she's got all those big songs, right? All of those big songs. But guess where? Somewhere in the middle there, you were going to go to church. So they were secular, but the truth is they got their learnings in the church. Their foundation was the church. And that's why I tell people, I said, yeah, you can say, that Whitney had the voice. Come on. You can't, you hear that national anthem, and I say to everybody, everybody else hears that national anthem, and like, oh my God. And we hear the national anthem, we're like, well, she took them to church.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly.
So they're church girls. So you can't separate the secular from the spiritual. You can't, because at the end of the day, I believe that God is all.
I got to do this because while I got you, we on point.
You know me. I'm
you'll understand when I say. You'll understand when I say this.
Okay.
In a few minutes. If you ever watched the Aretha Franklin funeral, right? Everybody talks about how long it was. It was about 4 hours long, right?
More.
More than 4 hours, right? But this man right here was the one who actually coordinated it and put the Aretha Franklin funeral together. Right. Talk to me about...
And the Whitney Houston.
I was getting ready to get there, man.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, my thunder.
Sorry.
I was getting there.
Sorry.
And Whitney Houston, right? But let's first talk about, while I got you here, Aretha Franklin, because that is something that will go down in history.
It will go down in history. And you know what I tell people? And it's funny because I was with a group of pastors, and they're like, man, that was I said, excuse me, stop. When the Queen of England died, y'all celebrated her for 3 weeks.
Exactly.
And you had to celebrate the Queen of Soul for 1 day. Once I said that, I haven't heard another thing. As a matter of fact, I hear people now repeat what I just said. If we can celebrate the Queen of England for 3 weeks, we can celebrate the Queen of Soul for 1 day. And I said, and not only that, but we're talking about God's child. Do you know that I turned away at least 100 or more than 136, superstars who also wanted to participate. We could have been there for a whole week. That's how many people wanted to come and participate. And when you look at who was there, look, everybody from Bill Clinton, you know what I'm saying, to Minister Farrakhan. Yeah, and people don't even know. They didn't have Minister Farrakhan on the podium. He wasn't supposed to speak.
Right.
But they had Minister Farrakhan out in the audience. And I was the one who said, no, wait a minute. We have to be right with all of us. We're coming together. I know Aretha, they were friends.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, no. So that's why you saw Minister Farrakhan. I had them put that chair up there. It's like, even if you don't say nothing, sitting here says a lot, because you see all of the community. You see Al there. You saw the entire community, the entire body of Aretha's life. You saw all of them up there.
Wow. So now take me to Whitney Houston for a minute.
Oh, my God.
That was a funeral that was... I think when we look back at that was history, too, because at the same time, that's the first time we ever really saw a full funeral like that.
Yes.
At quote-unquote Black Church.
Yes, on TV.
On CNN.
Yes. And here's the thing. Originally, Sissy Houston was like, we're not going to show anything, no video, no... And I said... and that's she considers me her big brother. Right. Even though she's much older than me, she considers me her big brother. And I'm very close. And when Whitney passed away, she turned to me, it was just me and her in the car, and she said, baby, this is yours. You got to take this over, you got to do it. And so from that moment, I took over. And that's why she and I was in the car, and we heard it was going to be at the Prudential Center, and we looked at each other, and she went, it is not going to be at the Prudential Center. She is coming back home. It's going to be at the church. I don't care how small the church is. It is going to be a church funeral.
Right.
She is coming home, and it's going to be at the church. She was determined. And that's why a lot of times people introduce her now as the lady who brought the world back to church, because she was determined that it was going to be a Black church funeral. And that's exactly what people got. And people celebrated that funeral. I mean, people were so emotional, from all over the world. People were texting me and crying, and people were like, oh my God, that was so wonderful. But people don't understand, that's Black church every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
That's Black church.
You'll see it there.
Right. And so she was determined. Sissy Houston, Whitney's mom, was determined that that was a church girl. This is where she got her foundation. This is where her mom taught her. This is where her learning come from. And she is coming back home, and that's the way she didn't care how small it was. She was like, that's where it's going to be.
It was one of the most awesome experiences I think we in the world got an opportunity to see.
Right, to see.
And then later on to have the opportunity to see Aretha Franklin's.
Right. In the church.
In the church.
Not in the hall.
We'll go down in history.
Yeah.
And people don't know, but you're the man who coordinated and put it all together. So congratulations.
Thank you.
For that. Now we got to get back to, because we got
April,
1 minute.
April the 20th.
Yes.
Lehman Center for the Arts, McDonald's Gospelfest, Shirley Caesar, Dottie Peoples, Byron Cage, and many, many, many more. Tickets are lehmancenter.org, or go to the Lehman Center for the Performing Arts website right here on the campus of Lehman College, and you will be so happy. It's going to be a great celebration. I'm excited. I guess you can see I can't wait.
I'm excited too. And you'll see me there, and I'll be there too, and looking forward to a great, great experience.
Yes, yes, you will be there.
Yes.
This is my brother. Y'all don't know. This really is my brother.
And you really are a brother to me too. And
Yeah,
I really
love you,
appreciate
man.
No, listen,
I love you, man.
I enjoy coming.
You come through. You come through. And I have to tell you, when we did that prayer, I have that touched so many people that people are begging for it. So we got to do that again.
No problem. You call me, I got you.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Hey, Curtis
All
Farrow,
right.
my brother.
Love you, man.
Glad to have
Thank you.
All right, listen, take a quick break. Be back with more right after this.
Hey everyone, it's your girl Kat from the Kitty Rose Lifestyle, also from The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray every week right here at BronxNet, Saturdays at 11 p.m. Wow, 30 years. 30 years of BronxNet public access television. I'm a girl from Brooklyn and came to the Bronx 25 years ago, started my journey on BronxNet on public access television in 2016, and BronxNet is where I got my start. BronxNet, I feel like, is a home away from home. They support all of my endeavors, and I wouldn't have been able to be on any of the other channels if it wasn't for the fundamentals that I learned right here at my start here at BronxNet. So I am so appreciative. My son says I should stop telling people I'm from Brooklyn because I've been here now, Bronx strong, for 22 years. So I'm so grateful, and I wish you much success in 30 years, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30 more, because public access is necessary so that people like myself can have a voice. Yes, BronxNet, it's your girl Kat from Kitty Rose. Check me out every Saturday at 11 p.m. right here, Channel 68, The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray. Mwah.
I remember when the Bronx did not really have a media outlet properly representing the people of the Bronx.
BronxNet provides for the community by being a community where people can be empowered to share their voices.
We are in a really great place technologically. We've got all the resources that we need to be effective.
Whether it's through cameras, storytelling, editing, we have provided those services for 30 years.
BronxNet's mission is to be a voice for the community.
To educate, to inform, and to inspire.
And you can be a part of it. We've built studios for you.
And we are back. In the Black community, the pursuit and maintenance of generational wealth has encountered numerous challenges. Now, according to a report, Black workers face a median income that is approximately 30% less than their white counterparts. Joining me now is the CEO of Diverse Solutions and Credit Specialist, Ali Toure. And we thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And when we talk about these numbers, obviously, we know that a lot of that is attributed to, bad credit, right? A lot of that is attributed also to a lack of access. And I know that what you do is really kind of like bridging the gap in that area to bring people both awareness and then also the access to get things right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so share a little bit about that.
I mean, I've been doing credit for about a little over 4 years. It's something I do full time. It's something I'm extremely passionate about, especially knowing that our people never really had the education, the proper education, to know much about credit. So this is something I do passionately, and I do it full time, and it's something I really care about because our people need the information.
Right.
And we know how important credit is. It's everything in America.
Well, now let me come back here because you said that we know how important credit is. I don't think sometimes everybody understands the importance of credit. So give somebody the breakdown of the importance of credit.
I mean, if you're going to apply for an apartment here, everybody's going to check your credit. If you're going to go for a home, they're going to check your credit. If you're trying to get a vehicle loan, they're going to check your credit. Anything you're really trying to do, they're going to check your credibility to see how risky you are. There's a lot of individuals that, are very risky, and then you have others that's not as risky. But for lenders to know that they can give you access to this credit or give you access to the building or a home, they have to check your credit to see if you're credible.
Right.
Yeah, it's all about risk factors.
And so when we find credit reports that are out there, talk about some common things that we see amongst people's credit these days.
The type of negative accounts I see on a daily basis, you have individuals that have bad credit card debt, charge-offs, so many late payments. You have people that have bankruptcies, repossessions. All of those things are things that can stop you from getting to where you need to be. Anytime a lender check your report and see that you have a charge-off or a bankruptcy, you consider a very high risk and nobody wants to lend to you. So those are some things that most people usually have. Evictions, all types of things that I see on a daily basis.
And we understand that bankruptcies stay on your credit report for what, 7 years?
11 years, 11 years, yeah.
7,
They stay
11
on
years.
For a long time, very long time. Mm-hmm.
And they can pretty much have a lingering effect.
I mean, it's like one of the worst things you can have on your credit report. Mm-hmm. One of the worst things you can have on your credit report. It's not something that everybody do need. Sometimes people will go and try to, they'll go and say, hey, let me file a bankruptcy when they don't really need it. Or they probably need to do is probably get a loan to see if they can take that loan off and pay off those balances that they do have and try to pay that loan off, little by little. Or they just, there's other ways around it, but people don't always need bankruptcies. Sometimes people take that way, but it's not always needed.
So as we look at credit right now and really the credit landscape, we know that there's a lot of things that's actually changed down through the years, right?
Yeah,
and
a lot.
so even very recently. So share with us a little bit about what's been happening that maybe we need to be paying attention to.
In regards to credit?
Yeah.
A lot of, in regards to the rates or what exactly?
Yeah, with regards to rates and stuff, we're seeing right now that, rates fluctuate, right? And we also understand that, people end up paying more with these fluctuating rates.
Yeah, right now is definitely a time, especially nowadays with social media. I'm sure a lot of people are aware. A lot of people are they're showing the importance of credit. It's extremely important. The best thing right now to do, especially now because rates are very high, I tell people right now, it's the time to focus on building your credit, making sure that your credit, you're maintaining it, you're paying them on time, you setting a lot of things on auto pay. That's a big thing. I always feel like I've noticed a lot of people don't really set their things on auto pay because they tend to think that, if they do, they might wake up one morning and all the money they had in their account just came off. I tell people, set these things on auto pay. Let them at least take out the minimum payment due. Because since you're going to pay it anyways, why not put them on auto pay? You understand?
Right.
So these are things that people want to focus on. They even, work on bringing down your balances of your credit cards. Utilization makes up about 30% of your credit score. So those are some things you want to bring down to help you maximize on your credit score and increase your credit so that, when you're trying to go for anything, you can get the best rate as possible, especially going for a loan because the rates are high and they determine the rates of the loan is going based off your credit score and your credit report. So those are little things that you can do to maximize on your score so that you're able to get better rates on things you're trying to apply for and to save as much money as possible.
Yeah, last thing we talked about before we switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
Talk to me about credit due date, statement date, right? Payment date.
Yeah.
Payment date, right? And then there's a statement date.
Yeah.
And I've heard the advice, it's better to pay it by the closing statement date than it is by the due date.
That's absolutely true. It's always we know that, we have a due date every single month.
Right.
It's a due date every month that we got to pay, but we don't realize that due date, usually 3 or 4 days before that, you have the statement date, and 3 or 4 days that you have the closing, you have the closing date, which you want to make sure you pay your cards by, make sure you pay everything by the closing date. Mm-hmm. Then a few days later is the statement date. You understand?
Right.
So they'll report it to the bureaus and say, hey, this is the balance that this individual have. So you want to make sure that your things are paid off before the closing date.
Right.
Make sure your balances, you can call your lenders credit, whichever one you have, Bank of America, Capital One, Discover, call them and ask them, hey, when is my reporting date? When is my statement date? And usually 3 or 4 days before that is the closing date.
Yeah. We hear a lot in Black and brown communities right now about this push to create generational wealth, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, for so many families, that's a desire. But sometimes it seems like a mountain, right?
Yeah.
So from your perspective, talk to me a little bit about generational wealth, because I know that's also part of your passion, what you really want to see people create.
I absolutely want to see people create generational wealth. It's extremely important, and it's all about information, That's how I feel. I feel like it's all about information. Now that we have the proper information, it's time to implement and do what we got to do. Because now we can literally separate the wealth gap. Everything is there. Everything is there. And it all starts with credit. Because with credit, it's called equal lending opportunity. We all on the same page. There's no black, there's no white, there's no Hispanic, there's none of that. It's all numbers. What you have is what you have. You understand? So it all starts with credit. And the reason why I like it is because you have the opportunity to do a lot of things. You can go to the bank. Just say you have a business for quite some time. You're making some income. You can go to the bank and leverage the money from the bank. So now you can use that money to invest that money into your business, which can put you in a better situation instead of using money out your own pocket. You understand? Which is what a lot of people do to put themselves in better situations. But now that we have the information, we can go and do the same thing as well, which could, put us in a much better situation.
So what are some of the tools I need for generational wealth?
What are some of the tools you need? I would say financial literacy. I say that's the key. Financial literacy is a foundation. Financial literacy is a key, and I stand on that. Yeah. Educate yourself on financial literacy, and then educate your family as well. Educate your kids, the ones that's coming behind you. Educate your peers, your spouse. Education is the key.
So when we talk about wealth, we talk about, obviously credit is going to be the key to helping to build that wealth. I'll go back for a second and talk a little bit about if I'm in a situation because I need to get my repair fixed or my credit fixed. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like that's astronomical. I remember back in the day, years ago, when I first looked at my credit report, I just felt like it was overwhelming. I mean, now I have a totally different disposition, but I remember that first time it could be overwhelming for somebody. So what should they do if they find, hey, I need some work here because I may have a late payment here, I may have this here. How do I get things back on track?
All right. The thing about credit is a lot of people tend to feel, oh, I can't, I don't know if this can be fixed, if this is possible. Credit can always be fixed. Always, always. Because we got to understand there are a lot of errors and a lot of things that are on the credit report. The first thing you want to do is basically pull your report. You can go to annualreport.com, freeannualreport.com, get a credit report. It's free. You can get one every year. It's totally free. Get that. You can look at the way that the creditors are reporting it. So a lot of times they're missing certain information, or they have the wrong dates, or they don't have the proper balance. They don't have the correct balance. Or the date that's been open is completely different, or the day's last activity is open, or your late payments are completely different. So there's a lot of different factors, and by law, everything should be reported completely accurately, meaning 100% accurately across the board. So a lot of times when you do look at your credit report, you see those errors, you can challenge it, you can attack it, you could send letters to the bureaus. Hey, this information is not correct. Would you guys fix it? If not, could you please delete it? Most of the times, they're not fixing it. They're gonna end up deleting it. And that can help you and put you in a better situation. So, and I do provide the service as well, but I tell people they can fix it on their own as well. But just like taxes, people can do it on their own, but they won't do it on their own because they don't want to make a mistake. Right. You understand? It's the same thing with credit, but there are individuals that can do it on their own.
So for yourself who works in the industry, what challenges do you find these days?
Like with credit?
Yeah.
In terms of it?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't necessarily deal with as many challenges. It's basically, the only thing I really did was me educating people, trying to change the mindset of individuals to know that you have to have good habits. Habits is key, it's everything.
Right.
These habits, whatever you do, it's gonna show. If you try to run off on this, so for me, it's trying to educate my people. Don't try to run off on Verizon, don't try to run off on Optima, don't try to run off on these guys and think that, you got away from them, because they're not gonna come knocking on your door and say, hey, you owe us $500, you owe us $200. They're not gonna do that. What they're gonna do? They're gonna put on your report, And now when you try to go do anything in the future, that's gonna pop up and that's gonna block you. You understand? So my challenge is really trying to educate my people and letting them know like, hey, these are habits that you had in the past, but now you wanna change up them habits. Have good habits because these things are gonna follow you. It's gonna make you.
When you have these conversations, right, I want to ask a question about receptivity, because we're out here trying to, you're out here trying to let people know the way to go. But how open are people these days, particularly in this generation, to receiving information and then at the same time implementing it?
I mean, people, it all depends. You have some people that's not, you have those that are receptive to receiving the information. You have those that think they know it all. I mean, then you have those that do get the information and implement it, which are the best people, you understand? But for me, the most important thing is to let people know, give them the information. What they decide to do with it is completely on them. But you do have individuals that take the information, implement it, do what they have to do, and now it's important because now they can teach the others in their household. They can teach their brothers, their sisters, pass on that same information. Right. Information is key, and we need it. So it's all about passing on the information. What they decide to do with it is totally on them,
right. You made a path yourself because you decided to be an entrepreneur,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And how has entrepreneurship changed your view as how you look at employment, all of that?
I mean, it's definitely not an easy route. As you guys know, it's growing rapidly. Entrepreneurship is growing rapidly, and it's definitely not an easy route.
COVID did something.
Yeah,
COVID did something.
COVID definitely did something because COVID done changed the ball game. People working from home. People's like, hey, I can't just depend on the job. Let me form my own business and things. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody, and that's the honest truth. Because people see the good things, they see this, but they don't see what's going on in the background. You understand? So it's definitely not an easy route. It's a very challenging route. You work your own hours. You're not dependent on anybody else. You gotta, everything you do is on you. Everything is on you. The whole business relies on you. So you're not dependent on, just working a regular job. So anything can happen. It's definitely not an easy route, but is it worth it? Absolutely. Right. But it's not easy. It's not for everyone.
Talk about getting the house in order, if you will. We only got a little bit of time left, but I want to talk about getting that house in order. But here we are. We're getting ready. March is right around the corner. Yeah. April is tax season. What are things that people should really be focused on right now, so that way they can get into a positive first and second quarter?
Right now, people should definitely focus on saving money. If you don't have credit, build it, establish it. If you have, because a lot of people right now, I've noticed, and a lot of people, their debt is very high, especially on their credit cards. Times are very hard. So if you do have high utilization, focus on bringing them down. Try to take out a loan to pay off that, whichever debt you have, and try to maintain it little by little, but make sure everything is on auto pay. I always emphasize auto pay is extremely important. And one late payment literally drops your score from 50 to 100 points. And that could be on your report for 2 years. No, it could be on your report for 7 years, but it doesn't affect you as much after 2 years. But you got to understand, within that 2-year time frame, people got things that they got to do.
Right.
And when lenders see that late payment, what you think happens? They get worried. They say, whoa, oh my God, he's going through financial problems or something's starting to happen. So I always emphasize, focus on maintaining that credit, do what you have to do, and just, try to save as much money as possible. Try to save as much money as possible because times are hard, and it's only going to get tougher.
Yeah.
It's only going to get tougher.
If people want to get in touch with you, how do they go about doing that?
If you want to get in touch with me, my Instagram is The Only Prince Ali, THE, Only Prince Ali. And my website is diversesolutionsservices.com. Yeah, you guys can get in touch with me there. I can answer any questions you guys have. And yeah, I'm here for the people. I'm here for our people. It's our time now.
Yeah. Well, great talking to you. Great having you.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
All right, we're taking a quick break. Have more here on the Social Justice Forums right after this.
Hello, BronxNet. Happy 30 years. 30-year anniversary. Boy, that went by fast. And also, my 10 years here at BronxNet has gone by even faster. I have a show called Just Give Me the Mic. My name is Deborah Coco, and I just love everything about BronxNet. What I've learned here, I've actually taken my studio production class, my field production class, and doing a show here has opened up so many avenues for me. It led me to acting and meeting some incredible people. I've been hosting and just having an incredible ride. So I still love coming to the studio and having my face-to-face interviews just like it was day one when I came into the studio. BronxNet has opened up so many opportunities for people within our community. But nonetheless, happy 30th anniversary, and keep on helping people to create their own dreams within the media industry.
And we are back. Our upcoming guest brings a wealth of experience as a seasoned cross-cultural consultant with over 17 years of expertise in fostering collaboration across diverse cultural environments. Her extensive background equips her with a nuanced understanding of cultural diversity, resilience, and empathy, enabling her to adeptly bridge cultural divides. We're pleased now to have Ndeye, let me get it right, Ndeye, Maram, NGom.
There you go.
And I said it right? I had to pause for a minute, girl, to get that thing right.
Ndeye, Maram, NGom, yes.
See, and the reason why I paused for a minute is because I want to get it right because I think names matter.
Yes.
But it leads into a little bit of our conversation because,
I agree.
you know, here's the thing. If you're going to embrace somebody,
yes,
you have to take the time to know somebody, right?
Exactly. I agree 100%.
So I'm going to work hard to get this name right, Ndeye.
Yes.
right? You know, and I got it, right?
Yes, you got it.
But you've been doing this for a minute because you've been dealing with, like, cross-cultural competencies,
yes,
right? For somebody who doesn't know about cross-cultural competencies, how do you define that?
Sure. So, like, a little bit about cross-cultural, like, you know, being a consultant in that area is basically assisting individuals and businesses and even different agencies, right, understand the different cultural nuances that happens in a variety of different cultures. So, like, the area that I focus on is within the West African culture and helping different organizations understand the different, you know, cultural competencies that happens within these cultural groups. So being cultural competent is basically you understanding, you know, like that specific culture's values, like maybe their religious factors that come into place, maybe the languages, maybe cultural taboos, and how that basically ties into their day-to-day living, right? And how that also impacts their daily routine and their daily lifestyle, as well as like their thoughts and their knowledge and understanding, right? Because as you know, like when it comes to culture, that impacts a lot of like the way that we do our daily day-to-day.
Right.
And if someone is coming from their, you know, specific country to a different, you know, society or a different country, not only are they learning to adapt, but they're also trying to understand how to balance both their own personal culture and the culture that they're currently in. So my role is to basically, you know, go into like these spaces and to like, you know, educate individuals about the nuances that may happen, that may occur, but then also like the beauty about the differences that we do have.
When we talk about educating people, you know, we live in a society right now where education is kind of like scarce because people don't want to be, you know, educated.
Yes.
I think about an experience that was had once where I was with some people and they were getting ready to jump on this particular young man because they wanted to jump on him because they were feeling disrespected. They feel disrespected because while they were talking to him, he wasn't looking at them.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Only to find out later on, guess what? In the culture,
right?
We don't look at people looking at you eye to eye.
Right.
Could be disrespectful, right?
Right.
It became an eye-opening experience for them to know that there was this culture that they're not aware of.
Right.
And I think one of the dangers about America is we we go around the world trying to colonize people from even though we're a great place of diversity.
Right.
We do a good job of trying to colonize people without respecting their cultural differences.
Right.
How do you go about bridging that gap when it comes to, let's talk for a minute about, the Senegalese community.
Yes. Oh, I love it. So I was born and raised here in New York, in the Bronx in particular. And, being Senegalese is such a beautiful thing. Like, we are located in West Africa, and, our languages is Wolof. We also have different ethnic groups, right? Like the Serer, we have the Tukulur. And then we were colonized by France, so we do speak French as one of the national languages. So when it comes to, like, the Senegalese community, I think it's very important that we understand, like, a lot of the variety of different cultures that is represented within Senegal, the religious factors, because religion also plays a huge role. When it comes to Senegal, I can say like 95% of the population is majority Muslim, and then you do have about like 3 to 4% that are, Christian and Catholic, and maybe that 1% that, are spiritual, for an example, right? So once we understand like the breakdown of not only the religious factors, and then the ethnic group factors, right? Because each ethnic group carries its own cultural nuances and factors, right? And here in New York, we have a huge Senegalese community that is particularly known within 116 in Harlem. So like within that area, we see a lot of like different businesses, we see a lot of restaurants, we see a lot of representation about the group. And specifically like with the past coming years, we do see an influx of Senegalese coming here through the migration and the asylum seeking. So I think for a lot of spaces, it's more of like understanding, okay, if these people are coming from these areas, what is really going on in like Senegal, right? Why are these people coming in these numbers? But then also like, what are some of like the cultural things that Senegal is known for, right? Like some of the things that we're known for is our plate. Like I always tell people, like, we are the top when it comes to jollof rice, right? Because we are the creators, because our original name is jollof. Yes, and then, so like we're known for our food, we're known for our teranga, which is like hospitality, right? So when people come in, it's our due diligence to make sure that people are treated with fairness and kindness and are comfortable. So it's like my home is your home. It's a type of mentality that you see throughout a lot of the Senegalese cultures and different households as well. And then also understanding, again, like what I said, the different cultural groups that are represented, right? So like, even though as Senegalese, we do a lot of the same things, different cultural groups have different variety of different things that they may do differently. So it's understanding that. And then also understanding these cultural groups have their own languages as well. So maybe one specific group, they may speak, like for an example, the Tukulur ethnic group, they speak Fulani, right? Which is widely spoken throughout, Africa, especially within West Africa. But then if an agency has an individual that is from Senegal and speaks Fulani, do they have an interpreter that's able to like assist them with that? Do they understand that maybe the Fulani that this specific person speaks is different than the Fulani that a person from Guinea speak, even though they're from the same ethnic group? So having that knowledge and that insight of the breakdown of the spaces where these individuals are coming in, is, especially within the Senegalese community, is very essential in order for us to just move forward and navigate that.
When we talk about asylum, right?
Yes.
We know that a lot of people from Senegal are seeking asylum here in the United States.
Yes.
And the reality is Senegal has its challenges.
Yes.
Right? For someone who does not know about what's going on in Senegal, let's get some cultural competence here.
Yes.
The people can understand what people are literally running from.
Right.
And actually why they're seeking asylum here in the United States. And maybe we can also appreciate our country a little bit more too.
Yes.
But a little bit about Senegal and what's going on there right now.
Yes, so like we just recently had our elections on March 24th. And we have a new president-elect, which is President Jaime Faye. He is one of the youngest president-elects in Senegal and within the continent as a whole. And prior to the elections happening, there were a lot of like political tensions because a lot of the individuals wanted change. And many of the individuals that did want change are the youth, are like the ones who are young. Now, Senegal, even though we have a lot of like older populations, we do have a majority of young, like, fresh minds that are ready to like take lead and also change a lot of like the different methods that are present within the country and to put it into a direction that's going to help Senegal thrive even more, right? So it's like Senegal is known as one of the most democratic, African nations. So when a lot of the political tensions was happening, I think that created not only an uproar, but that also allowed individuals to see like, wow, so there must be something in Senegal that is actually happening that is causing for these individuals to not only leave the country, right, but then also to have their voices heard. So Senegal is facing a lot of like unemployment. There are individuals who have graduated, for an example, and may not even have employment, or may not even qualify for those skills because they're overqualified, for an example, right? We see a lot of influence like within Europe and in different spaces where individuals are coming in, and instead of like adding the community to be a part of the conversation or even be a part of the development process, they are being, put to the side, and then decisions are being made without the acknowledgement and without the respect of, the community that's there. Mm-hmm. So many of the individuals that are coming to the United States or in parts of Canada or that are in Europe are basically seeing a better opportunity, a better life, so they can like also provide that for their families. So that's one of like the key things that is happening.
And I do this for a reason, because now that we understand a little bit about Senegal, we understand a little bit about the culture and cultural competence, right? Now your job.
Yes.
You're taking this.
Yes.
And you're bringing this to business.
Yes.
You're bringing this to leadership.
Exactly.
And let me ask the question, as you bring that to them, what's the reaction like?
That's a really good question. The reaction has been actually really great. Like, I think it goes back to the education process, which you have mentioned before. I think a lot of individuals don't know, or they're either curious to know, or they don't have the individuals or like the systems that are in place to help them navigate, again, the nuances when it comes to what is currently happening with these asylum seekers coming here, right? Like, for an example, I'm going to go back to that example because it's a major thing that is currently happening in the city, where you have majority of these different groups that are coming in who may not be Senegalese, right? But I'm going to use Senegal to stick to like, the content.
Right.
Who are coming into like these spaces, but the organizations are not understanding why. They may not have the languages access, for an example. They may not have the cultural competence to assist them with what their needs are, because the needs will vary, right? Maybe one family is leaving a specific area because there's unemployment, for an example, happening. Maybe one is leaving because of political tension. There's so many different factors that are in place. So when I'm sitting with these spaces, like these organizations and agencies and different groups, and I'm explaining to them, like, when you are speaking with them, please be a little bit sensitive, but then also allow for them to understand the systems that are here as well, right? Because obviously we know if you are in a specific country or in a specific, state, like in New York, you would have to apply a lot of like the laws and a lot of the processes that is here in order for you to adapt fully and to know how to navigate the systems, right? But that can only happen as well if you are working with individuals such as myself or other groups working in cross-cultural consultancy to help them navigate and bridge that gap. So now, not only do you have the competency of helping a Senegalese stay and hone into their cultural identity, but then you're also assisting them with understanding the systems that are here in New York and understand those systems and create those identities for themselves and their families while they're being here.
How do you encourage inclusive leadership?
I think inclusive leadership is needed 24/7. So in order for that to happen, it needs a lot of like communication. We need to have discussions. We need to have trainings. We also need to have strategy, right? And I always say that action-oriented solutions is the key for inclusiveness to even take place, right? So in order for that to happen, we need to understand the different issues that may be happening, the issues that may be stopping us from getting into like the solution, for an example, the barriers that we may encounter, and then understanding their key points and then like the other group's key points as well, in order for us to bridge those gaps and to mend those, differences and to be inclusive as one.
Yeah. For yourself, obviously going around and giving inclusive, talk about inclusive leadership and cultural competency.
Yes.
It took a lot of work, right?
Yes.
And there's a lot of resistance to it.
Yes.
What keeps you going?
what keeps me going is my love for my culture and my community. Honestly speaking, I think my parents did a wonderful job of installing, us being proud of who we are. Like I always say, like my dad is a huge Pan-Africanist. So like he always like taught us from a really young age, like, listen, this is who you are, this is where you come from. And I know like if you do go to school, they may teach you this, but this is the reality of who you are. And in order for us, for myself and my siblings to understand that, we had to go to Senegal, ourselves and see it. Like, oh wow, like, this is beyond what they have been showcasing to us in the book. So then like for me, I had to like really dig in and do my research.
Right.
And that's me asking family members for an example. Like, okay, I know like we're Senegalese, but I really want to like dig deep and dive into it in order for me to like better know myself and know how I can move within New York, right? And then again, like I mentioned, I was born and raised in the Bronx, and I'm really proud of being a Bronxite, right? Because the Bronx holds a mosaic that is like beautiful, right? We do have that diversity, we have different groups, and within the African community, we are like, I think like the second or the third largest groups here in the Bronx that's represented. So also understanding different cultures that are here and represented within the borough, and knowing how to navigate that, but then also tying into like the love that I have for my culture and my community as well.
So how do people tie into your services and what you have to offer?
Yes, so like within my services, so I do have a consulting agency. It is Maram Consulting Agency, and we offer multicultural marketing and insights for a variety of different businesses and organizations. So we help them not only with the training and the cultural competence portion of it, but we also assist them with helping with their branding. So if it's a up and coming like multicultural brand that's trying to form, we help them with understanding how to form their businesses, individuals that they need to speak to, and just making sure that the direction that they need to take for their business is being put in the right direction in the right way. And then I also have my own nonprofit organization, and it's titled Mbolo, which in Wolof means to come together. And I created that organization in honor of my brother, who was also an asylum seeker that was leaving Senegal to go to Germany, but by boat, and unfortunately passed away about 4 years ago. Due through like natural circumstances, but his journey is the reason why I created Mbolo, and why one of my passions working within the immigrant and refugee communities is so important to me. So I feel like we need to like hear the voices, we need to tell the stories, we need to also have the appropriate individuals in different spaces to help us carry out the mission and the goal of inclusivity as well as culture and putting it in the forefront.
Gotta bring you back.
Yes.
So much to talk about.
So much to talk about.
Because I think there's a conversation that needs to be had about asylum,
yes.
those who are seeking asylum, right?
Agree.
There's already this negative connotation out there.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they have left a life that has just not been favorable towards them,
right.
But it doesn't mean they're bad people.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And I think that when we come here, we already have these connotations, these biases, these stereotypes, because we major in that here.
Right, right.
And unfortunately, we can't build bridges, and we can't be the people that it is. So yes. I got to bring you back because I'm out of time for this segment.
Yes, I would love to come back, yes.
I already told my producer right now that she's hearing me as I say this, right? So we're going to bring you back and we'll talk a little bit more about something else. And it's been really good to have you.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
No, I appreciate it. Name Maram Ngom,
who's
been with us, and I got the name right. I'm saying I'm ending this show on a high note. All right, listen, come to the end of our show today, and I do hope that you enjoyed this week's discussion on the Bronx Social Justice Anti-Violence Forum. When we talk about social justice, it's so many different layers, and as we talked about today, we talked a little bit about McDonald's, and who would ever think that McDonald's and gospel music and Gospelfest would be tied to social justice? Whoever think that those who are seeking asylum requires social justice, but they do. And so that's why we have a show such as this. And so if you want to rewatch this week's edition, catch the Recablecast right here, BronxNet.org. If you want to join the conversation, present your point of view, that's always available. Social media, you can say whatever you want to say on social media, just about anything you want to say at BronxNet TV. Join us next week. We'll continue to elevate discussion and bring further awareness on the issues that matter across the globe. I'm your host, Daren. Say take care.